Soul is fire. From a slow simmer to a beautiful braise. Soul is sweet perfection and salty, spicy, saucy goodness. Soul is buttery smooth, melt in your mouth, and oh my. Discover our soul in Jackson, Mississippi, the city with soul.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us for season 3 of Dirty Napkins. Our hope is to influence the culture, not only through food, but by the personal experiences and testimonies of our esteemed guests. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and if you can't tell, my excitement is through the roof. Why? Because we've got a real treat for you this season. I'm talking political figures, the chief communication officer for one of the world's largest brands, a highly decorated chef, and a torsador, to name a few. I've enjoyed a spread of food ranging from Caribbean, Mediterranean, French, and my personal favorite, soul-warming Southern cuisine. Today, we're at the Weekend in downtown Jackson, Mississippi, and I'll be having a conversation with Rita Brent. She's a musician, comedian, and a fellow veteran. So without further ado, tune in. Let's go get some napkins dirty. Well, thanks for joining us for season 3 of Dirty Napkins. And we're gonna start this season off with a little bit of comedic relief. So I'm sitting today with Jackson's very own Rita Brent. How you feeling?
I'm good, Jeremy. How are you?
I can't complain. I cannot complain. Well, I got to break the ice a little bit. I'll tell you something real quick. I was a bit flustered this morning. I'm talking like, out traveling and stuff, right? And I'm like not in the best mood, and I'm like thinking to myself, I got an interview today. So I started looking up your stuff. You funny as hell.
Oh, thank you.
You are super funny. So I'm excited to talk to you. I'm excited to really kind of get to know your story and stuff like that. So I guess to really get started, so you're from Jackson, right?
Yeah, born and raised. Many people don't know that. I'll just take it down the line. So I went to Johns Hopkins Elementary, and then they figured out I was smart, and they sent me to Power APAC, and then I went to Northwest Jackson Middle School, and I went to Murrah, and then Jackson State. So literally all my educational training has been in Jackson.
Gotcha,
yes.
Gotcha. So when we go back to elementary school, I read somewhere, it's gonna be a hard left, but I read somewhere that like a little white boy or somebody called you the N-word way back when. Is that a true
I talk
story?
about that. It is. I talk about it in my song, Raised in the Sip.
Okay.
I say I was called the N-word in the 4th grade. And that's literally what happened. We were on the playground, just playing, I don't know, hopscotch or whatever game on the playground was hot at the time. And I beat him at the game, and he just hauled off and said the N-word.
Oh, that's how it happened.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, y'all learn young. And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't go home and tell my mother, but in retrospect, I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I was called the N-word at a young age. And I thought that was awful because somebody had to teach it to him. You know, he probably didn't know what it meant. He just knows what he was taught.
And that was gonna be my natural follow-up question. Like, people learn, that's crazy to think about somebody learning that young, at that young of an age.
Yeah.
Do you think that like that moment, right? I know this is like a very small moment in like the microcosm, but do you think that colored your opinion or perception of, let's just say, the South, Mississippi, Jackson in any kind of way?
Probably so, but it also taught me how to work with folks of all races. You know, being at Power APAC, it was completely integrated. There were black kids, there were white kids, and we all were operating in excellence. I was learning how to play jazz in the 4th grade. under a guy named Dr. Combs. And so it just taught me how to work with many people, which would become helpful later on because I was in the military and I still had to work with folks from different backgrounds. So I think in retrospect it was helpful, but to become an adult and realize that that's what happened, that's problematic.
Yeah, nah, for real. And Power APAC though, so kind of working our way through the timeline you just gave me to peel back. Power APAC, that's like a art school, right?
Yeah,
like
performing arts school.
I'm from Jackson too, but like I never really asked those type of questions. So performing arts, what type of arts were you performing in?
Music. So I was accepted into the program for academics because you had to test into the school, but also music. So I was playing the drum set, and I didn't even think about how major this was that I was learning how to play jazz as a 4th grader. Many students aren't even exposed to jazz until they become adults and can really appreciate the music and the art. So yeah, I was doing jazz music. And we had to take ballet and all that stuff just as, electives. And I'm like, I don't want to do this.
You're like, nah.
But I remember plie, demi-plie, grand plie.
You ain't like jazz? I mean, not jazz.
Ballet? No. Even to this day, I don't like yoga. I'm not flexible. I don't want to be dancing and stuff.
Man, now yoga good for you.
I know.
I like it. I like it.
Yes.
So, but how did you learn how to play drum? I'm a fellow drummer too, so
nice.
I'm interested to talk about this. How did you learn? When did you start drums? Around the same time?
In church, 8 years old. My mother is a singer pianist, and I've been in Baptist churches with her since I was a little girl. And then one day the drummer didn't show up for church. And my mother just must have assumed that if I have the musical gene, she's been playing piano since she was 6. And she said, well, my baby must have the musical gene too. So she put me on the drum set at 8. And then we built a relationship, a connection as musicians, mother-daughter. And she taught me. She cultivated my talents. And then before you know it, we were in talent shows. My mama was playing piano for me. And she would teach me how to, I would twirl my sticks, and she would coach me on my singing. And so I credit my mother single-handedly for cultivating my talents as an entertainer, as a little girl. And it wasn't on no Jackson 5 stuff, like she ain't beat me by the pool if I ain't put the towel up, because she was a single mother for a long time. And it was great to have that connection with my mother through music. And we still have it. I've written gospel songs for her. And so that connection is still very strong.
Yeah, now that's cool. So and you can hear the musical, because when I was looking you up, I saw right that you like to be considered a comedian, also a musician, right? And I felt it was super important to highlight that as well. So to stay on music a little bit longer, your mother was a musician. She taught you a lot of these things. That's kind of how you got into drums. And what other instruments do you? Do you play any other instruments? Or?
Yes, I've dibbled and dabbled into bass guitar, but I did not complete those lessons. And I'm a learn by ear, play by ear type person. So if I pick the bass guitar and back up, that could be a second instrument for me. But I play a multitude of drums. So drum sets, snare drums, timbales, pretty much any form of the drum I can play. Now I struggle a little bit with hand drums because my hands are so small and it hurts, but I do like the bongos and the congas, I do.
I never really knew how to hit the bongos,
Yeah.
like how to get, like how you see some people on the street just really bopping it and jazzing it. I could never figure that out.
Yeah.
Now I could probably do something with you on the snare drum though.
Okay, you sure?
I'm positive.
Oh, okay, too bad we don't have no sticks. I'll eat you up right
I got
here.
some in the car.
What's up then?
I'm messing with you. So, all right, so you do music at church and all of that stuff, and a comedy skit. I saw you did a comedy sketch. So like you can't be a praise dancer if you used to be a stripper. You really feel that way?
So this is what happened. I met Ricky Smiley in 2016. Okay. Ricky does satirical music as well. I don't know if you've ever seen his group. It's like Joe Willie and the Willanettes or something, the Willinaires. He has this satirical gospel quartet group. And when I met Ricky, I told him, hey, I can write music. And he asked me to write a satirical song for him. That's one of the ones I wrote. You can't be a praise dancer if you used to be a stripper. He never used it. And so some years passed, and I said, well, I'm just going to use the song. And I was doing a gospel show, and I played the song, and I brought a young lady on stage, and she didn't know what the song was going to be. I was like, I just need a praise dancer to come up here to dance to this song. And it turned out to be You Can't Be a Praise Dancer If You Used to Be a Stripper. And now the song has really, really elevated on social media. I released it on Apple Music just as a satirical something. And so, yeah, I get the church folks like, yes, you can be a praise dancer. God forgives, God cleanses. I'm like, I'm a comedian. I don't care what you do. You can strip, be a praise dancer, I don't care, but it's funny. And that's why I put it out, because it's funny.
Nah, it was funny. And something you said in there that I thought is interesting. So you write too,
Yes.
right? And actually I did see that you did you get your start? And please correct me if I'm wrong. Did you get your start like writing comedy for some people, or like in comedy?
Yeah, stand-up comedy was first. Now comedy writing, I've just started doing that. I've been doing some work with Charlemagne the God. Last year we did The God's Honest Truth. So that was my first big comedy writing gig. And then when I started working with Cedric the Entertainer, he tapped me to write for him for the Emmys, and that led to the Academy of Country Music Awards. So I'm doing some award show writing. So that is a new skill that I'm exercising. I've always been a writer, because you can't really be a stand-up comedian if you don't write. Otherwise, how are you coming up with material? I couldn't fathom you're a stand-up comedian and you don't write your own material. So yes, it's a multitude of things. I write for stand-up comedy writers, I write for other people, and I'm working on a couple shows as well, right?
Okay. Well, we'll come back to comedy because I really want to do a deep dive on that. But let's keep going down your timeline, right? So we've talked through elementary, we talked a little bit about high school and like the middle school era, but then you enlightened me that you went to Tougaloo.
Yes.
And then you made the better decision and went to Jackson State.
That's right.
So I understand that.
But I made some great friendships at Tougaloo. Let me say that. Because it was so boring on campus, we spent a lot of time with each other. I learned how to play spades at Tougaloo. I met a couple of my best friends.
You didn't know how to play spades before Tougaloo?
No, I did not.
See, that's
I
a Merle
was a churchy
stuff.
family, man.
That's a Merle stuff.
We played Uno at Merle, okay? We didn't play spades.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
But I made a lot of great friendships at Tougaloo, and they didn't have a mass communication program, and I wanted to do speech and radio. That's why I ended up transferring to Jackson State, and then that's when I became a radio host at WJSU 88.5 FM. So that was my entry into radio broadcasting.
Yeah, and okay, so you started at, what was the station?
WJSU 88.5.
What kind of radio hosting was that like?
It was a jazz station. So I started with an overnight shift, and when I was butchering jazz names, and I was under the leadership of Dr. Bobby Trussell, who was teaching me how to pronounce things and teaching me about jazz history. And I was also taking speech communication classes at the time, and Dr. Mark Henderson was teaching me how to speak and how to enunciate and how to articulate. And little did I know, I would be using these skills later on as a stand-up comedian. I didn't even see that coming.
Wow, okay. That's crazy how life works, right?
Uh-huh.
And you go from there to, I saw Mississippi Public Broadcasting. Is that linear, or did something happen in between that?
Oh no, I went to USM and tried to get my master's, and I quit. And then I was at Jackson State and tried to get my master's again, and
okay.
I was like, I don't like school. I don't know why I keep going back to get the master's.
Do you have your master's, or?
No, I got all my coursework done, and then it was time to do the final project, and I was like, I don't feel like doing this, so I just didn't get it. So it's possible that I could go back and get an honorary degree. I don't know. But in between that time, I quit school altogether, and I was a substitute teacher.
Oh, wow.
What we got here?
All right, yeah.
Okay, what flavor is this?
That's blueberry.
All right, I got dibs on this.
Okay, you take the blueberries. I'm gonna assume this is strawberry. I'm gonna take dibs on this one.
And we got you guys a peach one on this end.
Okay.
You taking dibs on another one? You gonna let this be for the
You
table?
can have the diabetes one. I'm gonna have this one right here.
You gonna give me this one? I don't even like cotton candy.
I don't need my sugar going
All
up.
right. Fair enough.
Are we cheersing?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. What we cheersing to?
A great interview.
That's right, dirty napkin.
All right, dirty nap. That's a better toast right there.
Oh yeah, drinking on an empty stomach. This is real smart. Yeah, 35 years old.
So tell me. So as you were telling me, you did all the coursework. You didn't finish it up, but
Yeah, I did some substitute teaching.
yes, sir.
Yeah, that's when you real broke at that point. I was just like, whatever. I'm gonna do whatever. And substitute teaching was great. I got some great material from being a substitute teacher. It was actually very fun, but I found myself getting too connected to the students. And I said, I don't want to do this.
But that's kind of what you want as a teacher, though, right?
Not as a substitute teacher. You just want to go. You don't really want to get close to the kids. You
Grab
want to
that
go
check.
make your $10 an hour and leave. But I found myself getting close to the students and getting caught up in their heartache. And I thought, oh, this is a little too heavy for me. So I decided to not do that. And eventually, I ended up at Mississippi Public Broadcasting doing radio as a host and an announcer and a producer. And that turned out to be one of the best jobs I ever had.
Yeah, and you said something before we started recording that I want to bring back up. You said that job really taught you a lot about like not even articulation, you were like just really pronouncing things, and you said a lot of it was because you were broadcasting for a primarily white station.
Yeah.
How do you think that influenced you?
Well, I was apprehensive coming into a state-run radio station. Mississippi Public Broadcasting airs all throughout the state. And here I am coming out of college, coming out of an HBCU. I have my own jargon. I have my own twang to the way I speak. And I was under the impression, or at least I made myself believe, that I needed to talk white. I needed to code switch. And it was not genuine. And I could not keep it up. And so eventually I, kind of spoke with my boss about it, and he said, look, just be yourself. Just be yourself. And it worked out. I don't speak badly anyway. So oftentimes we put that pressure on us to be someone we're not. For folks' approval, it really doesn't even matter. And yeah, once I stopped doing that, I really settled into the job, and it became a favorite job of mine.
You must be super self-aware to admit that, a lot of people won't admit that they code switching. I've done it before. I've definitely done it before.
It's like automatic, you know what I'm saying? Or we are around somebody and they're talking away. Dave Chappelle has a joke about this. Somebody's talking like, yeah. And next thing you know, you're like, yeah.
Before you even know it.
Yeah.
Before you even know it.
But just be genuine, be yourself. I have found that is way more beneficial to just be yourself.
Now, how long did you stay at MPB?
6 years.
6 years, wow, okay, that's a run.
And
same show?
No, I started out as an announcer, and then I was promoted to a host and producer. So I was hosting four or five shows, and we would have guests in, and I would interview them about all types of things, legal things, technological things, tourism. I was hosting those kind of shows, but it was beginning to feel a little monotonous.
Okay.
And it was getting too easy, and I don't like easy. And though I had no issue with anybody on the job, it was a wonderful job, God was telling me it's something bigger. You gotta do something bigger. And by this time I had started doing stand-up comedy. And in 2017, I decided to quit the job, which was a leap of faith. And it seemed crazy to a lot of people because I lost insurance, I lost state benefits. If you stay there 30 years, you can retire.
I didn't even think about that side of it.
Yeah, if you stay there 30 years, you can retire.
So this was a job. Like, you were producing and doing on-air work, but at the end of the day, like, you were working for MPB.
Yes, it was stability.
Yeah, that's sweet, low-key.
Comfort, security.
Yeah.
And I gave all that up.
For comedy.
For comedy, to be a full-time stand-up comedian. And to say the least, it has paid off.
Yeah, nah, for real.
Yeah.
So, and real quick, you didn't tell me you used to interview people. You should have told me that.
Why?
So I would have known. Right, so I'm like, okay, I gotta bring my A game now.
You should always bring your A game.
You're right. You're right. I gotta bring my A+ game. Now. Right. That's what I meant to say.
Well, you're bringing it. You're doing great.
Thank you. Well, now, so you left MPB. You got into comedy, right? And I heard you say you got into comedy around 2016, and you started comedy at a club that's no longer open, though, right? It was like Sweet
106.
106. Okay.
In Jackson off Terry Road. That was 2013.
Oh, so it goes way. So you left in 2016.
I left MPB in 2017.
2017, but you started back in 2013.
I was just playing around in 2013, and then I won this Novice Comedian of the Year award in this competition, and then some people in the industry were like, hey, you got it. You should take this seriously. And I said, oh, okay. And I remember the first time I did comedy, it was a 5-minute set, and I got paid $25. And I got to calculate. And I was like, okay, if I get up to 45, 60 minutes, I can really make some money here in an hour. And I decided to take it seriously. And so by the time I quit, I was still figuring out my branding and my voice in the game because I was going through some relationship changes. I was married when I started doing comedy at 13. By 17, I was divorced. So my material was changing, how I was presenting on stage was changing. I was moving out of churches. I was doing a lot of church comedy into comedy clubs. And that was an interesting transition period.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what's the distinction like, right, being married to a man at one point and now you're married to a woman, right?
Yes,
so
like, what freedom. Yeah.
What's the differences like? I know that's kind of a quirky question, but I'm just curious, right? Like, what's that like?
We can start with the genitalia. That's a huge difference.
The genitalia, I got you. So
yes,
step one.
That's a huge difference.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just say I was not competent on the other side. Yeah, don't spit your mimosa out.
You bet on this one. You bet on this side, huh? I got you.
Yes, I'm in my comfort zone now.
I got you. I got you.
But ultimately, it was, once again, about being yourself. I felt like part of the reason I got married is so I could be seen as righteous in the eyes of Christians. Because my whole life I was born under Christianity and that doctrine. And that doctrine does not embrace homosexuality. And so I had to get to the point where I was comfortable with myself, accepting myself, and that is enough. And if you don't accept me, then that's fine. You don't have to be in my circle. And so once I got to the point where I had the conversation with my family, like, hey, this is who I is, this is who I am, this is who I've always been, this is what is about to happen, I'm about to step into that, then it was fine. So everybody had to make adjustments, but now everybody's going on with their lives, which is what people should do anyway. Just
because that was gonna be my natural next question, right? So your mom is super, like, she in a church. You said you learned how to play the drums in the church, so, and you grew up in a Baptist church. You know, being the grandson of a Baptist preacher, right? I can understand that dynamic. How did the church and your mom take that?
Well, I didn't want the approval of the church. You know,
Okay.
I didn't get up in front of the church and say, church, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Because folks in the church are imperfect. You know, so I'm not looking for your approval when you are imperfect. No one is self-righteous in that sense. So it was only important to me to speak with my mother about it, speak with my grandmother about it. And it's really funny. I tell this joke that my grandmother refuses to call my wife a wife. She's just like, how your little friend doing?
That's a grandmama favorite line, ain't it?
Yes, but I give her grace. You know, a lot of this stuff is new to the elderly. So I'm not gonna try to force or push anything on her, you know. But for my family, it's just love. That was my request. Lead with love, you know who I am. Put the labels aside. I'm just Rita. There's literally nothing changed about me. I'm just Rita. And so once we got to that point, everything is good. Yeah. But the church is gonna be the church. The church is gonna be the church. They're always gonna nitpick what they dislike. They're going to maximize certain sins and minimize others. And that's on the church.
You talking that
You know,
talk.
I want to go be a part of religion that preaches and teaches love. And that's it, not hatred. Because then you're no different than the world if you're spewing hatred all the time. And so I have no tolerance for that.
All right, wow, that's great. That's enlightening too. And I think a lot of people will find value in you talking about that and saying that.
I mean, you'll see a lot of people are leaving the church because there's so much rhetoric now. You know, it's not about biblical principles. It's not about things that you can apply in your life. It's personal biases. What don't I like? That's what I'm gonna get up in the pulpit and talk about. Nobody wants to hear that. Folks are suffering. Teach me something that will help me live a high quality life. Teach me how to be kind. Teach me how to be loving. That's what I want to hear from a preacher. And if you can't give me that, well, I'll figure out another way.
Right, okay. So when we talk about comedy, right, I'm getting into your comedic journey. So 2013, I'm curious, have you, I know you have you ever like bombed the show? Like you went back to the back and was like, oh, that was not good.
Hell yeah, yeah. Bombing is a part of the process. Yeah. You know, because I'm trying new material sometimes. And so bombing is just taking a risk and then you see if you're gonna get the reward or not. So when I try new material, I have to bomb to see what works and what doesn't. But I remember Dave Chappelle once said that the beauty is in the attempt. So don't look at it like bombing, and I used to get down on myself. Like if I bombed, I would be ready to quit. Oh, I'm not good enough. I don't need to be doing this. And then I started giving myself credit for even getting on the stage and doing something that it takes a lot of courage and bravery to get in front of hundreds of thousands of people and just use your voice as your weapon. That takes a lot of bravery. So I said, okay, I'm gonna be kind to myself when I'm performing. And if a show goes well, I'm grateful. If it doesn't go as well, I'm gonna go back and see, okay, how can I adjust? How can I refine that joke? And then I'll try again.
And that's interesting because I think I can kind of akin comedy to sports almost, right? It's very immediate,
yes.
Right? So you think about what I'm doing as an interviewer, it's not so much immediate because it's gonna get edited, we're gonna look at it, right? But you have instant gratification, right? Or lack thereof. Yeah, or lack thereof. You get this great punchline and it falls flat.
Yeah.
Like, what does that feel like?
Well, it must not have been a great punchline if it fell flat. But the audience is the judge. You're gonna learn right then and there if this is a good joke or not. And sometimes it's just not the right joke for that crowd. So you'll hear people say in comedy a lot, know your audience, have an idea of your audience. One time, Cedric the Entertainer and I were gigging in Naples, Florida. It was called Off the Hook Comedy Club. And we pulled up to the club, and on the way there, I was like, oh, it's a little suspicious. Like they had Trump spray painted on their cars, and I was like, where the hell are we?
They had what?
And so we get to the club, Trump spray painted on their cars. We get to the club, and I kid you not, it's like 98% white people. And so I had to go back to my set, like, that joke ain't gonna work. That church joke, they're not gonna get that. You just gotta be willing to adjust. You have to have material, primarily that is universal. That's the goal. Have material that is relatable to everybody, but be willing to adjust when you see a crowd. And because I can look at a crowd and be like, okay, these church jokes gonna hit, these military jokes gonna hit. You just have to have that awareness.
Okay, self-awareness, right?
Yes.
So when you, two ways I can take. Okay, how do you write jokes, right? And I bring that up specifically because you said Dave Chappelle a few times. Dave Chappelle is literally my favorite comedian, right?
Yeah.
And he said one time that he writes a punchline first, and I don't know if this is true. He puts them in a fishbowl, shakes the fishbowl up, and he pulls one out. Right? How do you write material?
I've used that technique sometimes where you know the punchline, you know where you want to get. But if you're looking at it technically, you have a setup, you have supporting details, you have a punchline, and then you can have a stinger at the end. So it's like a double punchline. So that's how I write mine.
So you're technical with it.
Yes, like I've spoken with Roy Wood Jr. and he says if you're going to write a joke, you need to be expressing something about yourself, teaching the crowd something about you, or expressing how you feel about a certain topic. So however my opening line is either going to be something about me personally or how I feel about something, a definite belief. It's like I'm throwing out a concept, a hypothesis in the form of a joke. I'm going to support it, and then I'm going to make it funny with a punchline. So that's how I do it.
Okay. What's the Jackson comedy scene like?
Ooh, maybe it's growing. I think it's growing.
Maybe it's growing.
Yeah, I haven't been here often, and I only kind of associate with a few comedians in the city.
Okay.
But I watch Jackson comedians, and I see they're doing shows consistently in the city. But it's just a different type of comedy culture here.
Okay.
And I live in Atlanta. I've lived in New York, and they live and breathe comedy in New York. You can literally perform somewhere 4 or 5 times a night in New York.
Oh, wow.
Same for Atlanta. You can get on stage 5, 7 times a week. But in Jackson, it's like private gigs. When I'm performing in Jackson, either I'm doing my own show or I'm doing a birthday party or I'm doing an anniversary or some kind of private gala.
Okay.
So the culture here has to grow comedically. Yeah, and it has to start from scratch. So it'll be like if I would open a comedy club or something like that, then...
Are there any comedy clubs?
Yes, there's a Miketown Comedy Club. It's in the North Jackson area, and there's Chuckles in Jackson, which I think is under construction right now. But they bring some great comedians.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious because I haven't heard much about like just the Jackson comedy scene. I'm being honest, right? I've not.
Well, it is small, for sure. It is small. That's not something we're known for. Now, musically, we're popping.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
comedically, we're just not there yet. It's new territory for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I will put a pin in that real quick and dive into this. This smells really good.
You gonna say your grace?
You know what? Let's do it.
I still say the
you
little one.
You want to do the fist bump? Cause now I'm from the type of family.
I still say the one they taught me as a child. God good, everything. You know that you mumble through it.
Yeah, well, I don't even want to tell you how I came up. So you want to do the fist bump? I'm from a touching family. We be touching while we say the prayer.
Right.
So.
All right, God, we thank you for this opportunity to fellowship. We thank you for this production that is Dirty Napkins and all the people that Jeremy has interviewed, and we thank you for the insight that will be given and the people that will listen. We ask that you let this food be nutritious to our bodies. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Man, see, Mama, I do pray.
Yeah.
So what you get? You got your waffle, got the toppings over there?
Yeah, I love bread, waffles, French toast, biscuits, pancakes. You need the meat. Oh, see, I didn't know they had French toast. I would have got that.
Yeah, I got to test it out. I'm a bread guy myself.
Yeah, I'm trying to eat plant-based.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
That's got to be tough, though.
It's tough in Mississippi.
I can't do it.
It's tough in Mississippi, for
It got to be tough in Atlanta, too. It's a lot of...
Don't say you can't do it. It's not hard in Atlanta. It's a lot of vegan, plant-based restaurants in Atlanta. Very easy.
My nephew vegan, but I'm just not, it's something about that real thing. You know what I mean?
I get you. But I mean, you ever had
But you don't
zucchini
feel
fries?
me, though. But you don't feel me, though.
You ever had zucchini fries? They taste just like regular fries. Delicious. Eggplant fries.
Zucchini fries?
Yes. You make them just like regular fries.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Rita. I'm a bit, which is interesting because, I host a show about food, obviously, that you're on. But I tend to be a bit of a fussy eater. You know, I can be a little fussy with my food. I like it a certain way,
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about zucchini fries.
Don't knock it till you try it.
All right. Well, fair enough. I'm gonna take a bite of this. So, just to ask you, I don't want to put too much on you while you're eating, but so when you talk about, thank you.
May I have more served, please? Yeah, thank you.
When you talk about just like the different comedy scenes, the comedy scene in New York, and I didn't realize you were in Atlanta, so that's cool. So you've actually lived in New York,
Yes.
but you currently live in Atlanta.
Yeah, we moved to New York right before the pandemic hit,
Oh, okay.
and had no idea the pandemic was going to hit.
Right.
And so, spent all that money moving there, paying $2,100 a month for rent
Ooh, they want it up there, don't they?
in a tiny apartment. And then the pandemic hit, and we left because it didn't feel sustainable. And we missed the hospitality that we get in Mississippi, or just in the South in general. So we made the decision to leave. But I made some great connections. I met a lot of wonderful comedians. Thank you. And it's a place that I would like to go back to at some point, but to live, I don't know. It's just so
You don't know about
fast-paced. You gotta take the subway, the traffic is horrible, folks cussing you out. All of the diseases hit New York first. I ain't got time for that.
And they hit hard too when they hit, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, you said something that I completely agree with. I am not. It was funny. It was so funny though. I'm not a LA fan. I am not a LA fan, but you know, I don't want to deter any LA listeners, but I'm not a fan of LA. But you said everything in LA is so. I'm trying to do my best Rita B impersonation. Everything in LA is so funny. I mean, so expensive. What you said? $3,000, I think it was. You said $3,000 in Mississippi can get you 40 acres, a mule, and 2 slaves.
White slaves.
I ain't catch the white part.
Yeah, that's called a double punchline.
That's the stinger you just told me about.
Yeah, I said white slaves, and then that took the joke to another level.
I'm practically gonna be a comedian now. After we get done with this, I'm gonna start writing some jokes.
Yes.
Soul is history that moves you. Saying, remember this day. Soul is the spirit inside each of us that never gives up. Soul is a voice that says, listen to me. Discover our history, our spirit, our soul in Jackson, Mississippi, the city with soul.
Do you like writing though?
I love it.
You do?
I love it. It is for me, it's a secret weapon. Well, not even a secret weapon, it's my superpower. Because if you can write, you can literally be in any career if you can write.
Explain that.
You think about it. You have to write emails. You know, if you are in administration, you have to send emails in a professional way, in a coherent way where the receiver can understand. If you can write, you can do anything. I plan to write a book someday. That's how much I love writing. I want to do it in every vein that I possibly can.
So you would say underneath it all, you consider yourself a writer too?
Yes, absolutely. I've always loved writing. I mean, it's my bread and butter. I write music, I write jokes, you know, I write contracts.
You write it. You literally write everything.
Yes, language is important. It really is. It cannot be underestimated.
I got you. And my next question in general is going to be about the state of comedy, which is something I'm interested in. Right? You've told us, you've been vulnerable with us and let us know that, and I don't want to put this on you, but I'm assuming you identify as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, right? My question for you is, like, when we talk about the state of comedy, right? This guy I like a lot, he's a comedian named Andrew Schultz. I don't know if you're familiar
he's
with.
Wonderful.
Okay, yeah. Love
Now
his.
he can write.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. You gonna make me love him even more now.
His latest special is dynamic. I've never seen that many punchlines in one special.
But it got pulled though, right? Is this the latest one? So that's my question, right? Like, as a comedian, how do you deal with that? Because I remember, like, I was so excited about his series about to drop. Like, oh, my guy is dropping a comedy special. And then from nowhere, it's like, yeah, it got pulled. They pulled it off. I can't remember if it was Hulu, Netflix, whoever it was.
Yeah, but he released it on his own
website,
which is very smart. And he said that he made multiple times what he would have made had he kept it on that streaming service. So we're in a position now as comedians that as long as you have an audience, as long as you have supporters, just die-hard fans, you'll be just fine. Okay. I think this idea of having the middleman and all that, It's going by the wayside, and it's working in our favor. Because even to do something like this, Dirty Napkins, you would have to get this green lit by somebody. What did you do? You grab some of your homies, and y'all doing it because you want to, and because nobody's telling you you can't. So, and that's, the thing with Dave Chappelle. He's saying that I'm in control of my own destiny. And a lot of folks are like, we're gonna try to stop it. And he's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, you don't have the power to no more, right?
Yeah.
But I still thought it was interesting that, in fact, right, that there was enough power and enough, I don't want to say clout, I really hate the word clout, but there was enough of that to get the show still pulled. Although he made 10 times over what he would have made had he released it through one of these streaming platforms, it was still pulled. So my question is, do you think comedy, there's some people who would say, oh, comedy is dying, or the real comedy is dying. Do you agree with that?
No. It's more comedy and goofy stuff that I never thought I would see on the internet. I mean, folks are doing all kind of things in the name of comedy, and people are sucking it up. So, no, I don't think comedy is dying. I think it is expanding to people who typically wouldn't even be considered comedians. Now they are considered comedians just because they have a social media platform. But do I think censorship will always be around? Absolutely. Because if I am to go on late night TV, they have to approve every single word I'm saying. I can't just get on late night TV and say what I want to say.
I didn't know that.
Yes, you have to turn in a transcript of your jokes. So yes, censorship will always be around because they own the station. So they're like, well, this is what you can say on my station. And if you're on your own platform, you can say what you want to say on your own platform. Yeah, so you have to determine which route you're going to take.
So the only way around censorship is what the world is coming into, and really more black people are coming into, white people too, but just like ownership, right?
Ownership, individuality, entrepreneurship. Yes, that's it. We have to own our own stuff if we want to say what we want to say. Otherwise, they're going to be overseers and gatekeepers telling us what we can and cannot say.
So what's something that's off limits in comedy, would you say? Or is anything off limits to you?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I don't know until I say it.
Until you say
and
it.
I don't get a good reaction. Like I told a breast cancer joke once.
It didn't hit.
Crickets. And it was a personal story. And people were still just like, no.
Don't work.
Yeah. But I also feel like men can talk about things that women comedians cannot, because we'll be considered dirty.
You think it's a double standard?
Absolutely. We'll be considered dirty or raunchy. A male comedian can get on stage and talk about his junk for a whole hour, and they'll just accept that. Oh, that's just who he is. He's funny. He talk about his stuff. But let a woman get up there and talk about her junk for a whole hour. She's dirty. She's nasty. She's raunchy. It's like, what's the difference? They both talking about stuff. But there's an expectation for women to be ladylike.
But now I've seen some female comedians really go after. I can't think of her name. Right? Like,
Are they mainstream?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm a big comedy fan. Probably, obviously not as big as you, but I think of one woman specifically who I would say told raunchy jokes. She had like a short haircut, kind of spiky.
Okay.
Little bit.
Not Leslie Jones.
No, I cannot think of her name.
Not
so this
some
is
more.
not doing my story any good.
Some more?
I don't think that's her name
Okay.
either. She was old. It was around the time when Queens of Comedy was really starting to rise. I think she was a part of that circuit.
Okay.
Once we get off, I'm gonna find her and I'm gonna show it to you. I'm gonna say, this is who I was talking
but
about.
even Cheryl Underwood used to be dirty.
See, I was gonna say
And
Cheryl
now
Underwood.
She's on The View. Like, she has completely changed, you know?
So I don't know.
And
Like,
you get paid when you're cleaner.
okay.
You can be dirty. You absolutely can be. As long as you stick to it and you commit to it. If I'm a dirty comedian, that's fine, but I don't think it should be a double standard. I think I should be able to tell a dirty joke with impunity, just like men can tell a dirty joke with impunity. In the right setting. I ain't gonna tell it on late night TV, but if we in the comedy club and ain't no phones, let's get it.
I feel that. I feel that. Do you want to be on? You talked about late night a little bit. Is that like kind of your long goal?
It used to be. Because it used to be that you got on late night TV and it changed the entire trajectory of your career.
Okay.
That's not the case anymore. If you go viral on social media, that can change the entire trajectory of your career. So if I get on, great. If I don't, that's not a big deal.
So as you telling me just about how you can go viral and that can change your life and just the censorship of it all, for comedians, I feel like you guys have to be like hypersensitive to what our society calls cancel culture, right? What are your thoughts on cancel culture? Like people getting canceled for saying the wrong thing about the wrong group of people, or about the wrong person, or about the wrong situation, whatever. What is Rita's thoughts on cancel culture?
I think it's temporary. You'll see somebody get canceled, and then the next week they're back on tour again. And it depends on what you got canceled for. If it's just a statement that was out of line, you'll get forgiven for that really quickly because the news cycle changes so fast. I remember there was a specific rapper, I won't say his name, but he had a sex tape out. Okay. And I remember seeing the sex tape, and it was a thing on Twitter for a day, and then it completely disappeared. And he didn't mention it. He didn't address it or anything. And I kept watching, and I was like, is he gonna say something about this? He didn't say a thing. So I've learned that if you just keep silent, keep moving, keep it steady, you'll be fine. But, you know, if you do some Bill Cosby, Louis C.K. stuff, it's gonna sting for a while. Yeah, but just small statements, misspeaking, that cancellation won't last.
Who is Louis C.K.? I've heard the name a million times.
He's a white comedian who's very popular, very famous, and he was accused of masturbating in front of women against their will. You know, just he got caught in the Me Too movement.
Kind of sick.
Now, he had a lot of stuff canceled, shows canceled, women comedians who were collaborating with him were like, nah, we ain't fooling with you. But now he's back on tour. He's releasing specials on his own platform, and he's coming back into the you know, he's coming back into the swing of things. So I can't say that I've gone and deleted some tweets, because what happens is when you get a big opportunity, now as long as you ain't hitting on nothing, nobody's bothering you. But if it becomes an announcement where Rita's hosting the Emmy Awards, then people gonna go back on Twitter, they were like, in 1949,
she said,
you said this. And so I had to go back through some tweets because I was saying some crazy stuff. I mean, I don't know when it got cool to just say stupid stuff on the internet, but there was a point in my life when I was going along with the wave and I was saying inappropriate things.
But shouldn't you be able to? Your social platform, you give me this head like,
sure.
You should.
You should be able to, but you're gonna have to deal with the consequences if there are some.
Okay.
You can say what you want.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to deal with the penalties that come with that.
What comes with that?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. How do you deal with just the differences? Well, and I guess the better question is there a different person, the Rita on stage or the Sharita at home, I guess you would say?
Oh yeah, I'm an introvert.
Okay.
I'm talking about a full-blown introvert. I am self-conscious when I'm at places. I don't like walking in front of crowds. I'm socially awkward. I have social anxiety. Yeah, so when I'm on stage, I'm stepping into a persona and I'm performing. That's my happy place. But when I'm off stage, I prefer to be at home with my wife, watching Netflix, eating snacks, or just hanging with a small group of people. I don't like being around a lot of people because now there's an expectation for me to be funny. Oh. I can't just be normal. You know, if I walk in the room, Rita, tell me a joke or give me a picture. So I can't be normal anymore. So when I'm at home, I get to be normal.
Yeah. You get to be
I'm not an
authentically you.
extrovert.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear too, because you would think, right, you being able to get on stage and perform in front of all these people that you got it, right? Like I'm super out there, I'm extroverted, but interesting enough to hear you kind of categorize it as like a persona album.
Yeah, I'll be ready to go home.
Yeah.
I do not like going out. I'll go out, you know, but I'm gonna be looking silly.
Yeah.
And I gotta have something in my hand because I feel awkward if I don't have anything in my hand. Oh, I'm self-conscious. I'm thinking about what somebody's thinking about looking at me.
Yeah.
You know, it's seriously social anxiety. Thank you.
We on the same type of time there. I'm kind of the same way. Like I gotta be doing something with my hands, so I feel you.
But I'll go to the movies alone. I go out to eat by myself. I'm comfortable being alone.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. So I gotta ask you the obvious question. Who are your top comedians?
All right, let's see. It changes. Every time somebody asks me, I just change it up for the hell of it. But lately, Patrice O'Neal.
Okay.
He was a theologian to me, a philosopher.
Okay.
Yes. Some of his perspectives on things, it's like, wow, how did he come up with that? You know, just how he thinks. I love the way he thinks. and how he translates it into comedy. He died in his 40s. He had diabetes. And he talked about that in his comment. He's like, I'm not gonna stop eating cookies. I'm not gonna stop eating cupcakes. He talked about dying in his set. He knew he was gonna die early. So being able to talk about that on stage as a comedian, it's like, wow, I have that power to talk about what I'm going through on stage. Patrice O'Neal, Roy Wood Jr. Roy Wood Jr. is from Alabama, and he's on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And I just love his perspectives on things.
Oh, I got you. I got you. I didn't know his name.
Roy
Okay.
Wood Jr.,
I
yes.
got you. Okay.
Gina Yashere, she is from the UK, and she's just so freaking funny. She takes the smallest things, everyday things. Like she could take this waffle and make a full set about it. So I watch her for simplicity to like, okay, maybe I can talk about some simple things too. And of course, I'm a big fan of Dave Chappelle. I guess that's controversial to say now.
Is it?
But yeah, you know, he's in a little hot water with a certain community.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, from the last special. You know, he's been accused of a lot of things, but considering his full body of work, I'm still a fan of Dave Chappelle. Yes.
I'm glad you put me on game because I did not know. Like I said, I've been watching them like it ain't nothing.
You must have been under a rock.
Yeah, but I'm like you though, right? Like sometimes I go off the grid sometimes, you know. I don't like to be around people and, you know.
That's my main goal. I want to go completely off the grid someday. No social media, nothing.
Yeah, that's that bag.
Yeah.
I love to do like a cat. I'm not gonna talk about me much. Never mind. Never mind. Anyway. So I just want to know. I know you don't live in Jackson anymore, and but you're from here, right? And you have roots here. You know the city, right? What are your thoughts in general, like outside of comedy, outside of all that? Just your thoughts on the city, where you would like to see the city go, and somewhere that you call home.
My heart aches for the city. It really does. My heart aches for the city. It hurts me to see how people talk about the city, whether it's outsiders or insiders. I just don't see how it is helpful to bash and badmouth the city incessantly on social media. Because what that does, it gives other people permission to do the same. So if this is the capital city of the state and you don't have any pride in the city, well, nobody else is going to do it. And now I just see a bandwagon of hatred. And that is bothersome. Because no, we are not a perfect city, but we do have some good things going. We're here at a new restaurant in downtown Jackson. We're building up. We're building up businesses. People from Jackson are doing amazing things. My former classmate, Nashley Cephas, has bought up most of Gallatin Street, and she's going to revitalize it and make it into a tech district. I just think we don't spend enough time pushing the positive things. It's just like negative. Pothole. I've been to Africa. I've been all over the world. Everybody has potholes. So why that's still a narrative, I don't know. That's why I made a funny song about it. Just take your mind off the negative stuff dealing with potholes. So, you know, I would love to see the city grow. I don't want us to become a rundown city where we are defined by boil water alerts and sound bites from politicians that are less than flattering.
Yeah.
You know, so it's funny to me. It's good material for me, but it does not make me proud as a native of Jackson.
Right. That's a great way to put it, because people do bad, kind of mouth the city and stuff like that. But I do think, to your point, like your classmate, I didn't know she was your classmate, but her buying up you, moving off and kind of doing this comedy thing and becoming, you know, real big in that comedy space. All of these things I feel like are kind of culminating or just helping us cultivate a better Jackson for tomorrow. So that's all a good thing.
A better Jackson is coming, but you have to have the right people in place who, I mean, it's funny because sometimes the enemy can look like the advocate. Sometimes people have ulterior motives and they can posture themselves, oh, I care about the city, that's why I'm holding the city accountable. Well, some stuff you just talk about at home. You don't have to talk about it publicly because others are watching. So you have to be careful that you're not being counterproductive with your criticism as it pertains to the city and the narrative around it.
Yeah. Okay, and that's fair. And something I want to touch on, I know I told you I was done kind of drilling about comedy questions, But you said something that I forgot to touch on. You talked about, right, just you being a loner, you being an introverted, and you also just having like being a little self-conscious. Do you think your comedy came from a place of self-consciousness initially?
The comedy came because I've always been funny. I just didn't know that I could be professionally funny.
Okay.
And I will say that it gave me an outlet. It's an escape. Because as an artist, I'm always looking for ways to release. And initially I was just releasing through music. I was releasing through instrumentation. And then I just found another avenue to release. So it is therapeutic for me. It's a way where I can get on stage and talk about things I'm going through, relate to people in the crowd who are going through the same thing, and then somehow in the midst of that, we heal through each other. Because after the show, I have wonderful conversations with people. Oh, I'm going through that too. I'm so glad you touched on that. Oh, I feel better about this now because of how you discussed it on stage. Yeah, so it's not just a job or a hobby, it's a mission, it's a purpose for me now.
And the reason I asked that question is because going back to Andrew Schultz a little bit, right? He said something, and not calling comedians bullies, right? But he said, bullies bully, right? And that's what made me ask that question, because it's like, right, like for me, I find a lot of comfort in just sitting down talking to someone kind of one-on-one. I almost ignore the cameras, if you will, right? So this is kind of my happy place. So I just wonder, being up there on stage, because comedians tend to roast people pretty good. Like, I mean, I saw some videos of you like really getting into some people. You had this one lady, you was like, is anybody in here a fan or something like that? And you put the mic to her mouth and made her sing something and she didn't know the song, right?
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
I said, was she an ally?
An ally, that's what you said.
There's a white lady, I asked her if she was an ally, and she said yes. And then I would lift every voice and sing, and she didn't know it. I was like, see, you're not an ally.
I'm an ally.
Yeah, I'll tease the crowd sometimes. Yeah, but it's typically lighthearted for the most part. Now, a friend recently told me about a situation with D.L. Hughley, where he was on the front row, or he was like on stage or something, and D.L. Hughley roasted him to pieces, to the point that he never went back to a comedy show. And so I'm not trying to traumatize people like that, you know. But that's DL, that's what he's known for. But I will tease people a little bit, but it'll be so benign that they won't leave, oh, I'm embarrassed. It'll just be a memory.
But you got, and tell me if I'm thinking about this wrong, but you got to be able to take it, right? If you're going to a comedy show, right? And if you're sitting on the front row at a comedy show.
It's a possibility. It's always a possibility.
Yeah, you got
some thick skin and don't take it personally. Yeah. We're just trying to get a laugh.
I got you. So, is there any joke specifically that you think back to, and it was maybe an embarrassing joke, or not even a joke, even if it is just an embarrassing moment? Has there been a moment that you like, oh, I really messed that up, I wish I could take that back?
Oh yeah, I remember it very vividly. It was 2016. I was here in Jackson. I had a show called All Laughs Matter, and the whole show was good. I was doing well, and I decided to end on a joke I had never done before. I don't know what made me do that. I just trusted myself so much. Like, I'm gonna do this joke and it's gonna hit. It did not hit. It was dead silence in the crowd of 300 something people. And I cried for a few weeks. I was just so sad. I was so disappointed in myself that I made such a rookie mistake, that I didn't test my material. My closing joke, I did not test it before I delivered it on stage. So I'll never forget that. It took me a while to get over that.
Get over that. Wow.
I don't think the crowd remembers it, but I remember it. Yeah.
I got you. Well, as I start to wrap us, a few more questions. One question I like to ask is just, is there something, right, that you could tell your fans that are watching this, something vulnerable, right, that they may or may not know about you? What would you say? What is that?
I mean, the whole interview has been quite vulnerable. But no, nothing else. I don't know, what you mean, like a dirty secret?
Let's go with that. Let's go with that.
Do I have secrets that I have not?
Oh, you got one.
That I have not talked about?
That one that's floating around up there that you're kind of really doing some damage control.
I can't tell that one. I don't know, something vulnerable. I don't really know how vulnerable this is, but you know, sometimes people look at folks they deem celebrities and just think that everything is easy for us.
Yeah.
But I am really weird in the sense that I have some severe anxieties.
Okay.
You know, so before I perform, I go to the bathroom like 8 times.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So when people see me, they like, you just look so relaxed on stage. You don't get nervous, do you? I'm like, yeah, I get nervous.
You got no idea.
Yeah, I get nervous. So if you're a person, you're delivering a presentation at work, just know that Rita B gets nervous too. You know, I get the feeling sick. You know, I'm nervous when I'm in these rooms with these big stars. And sometimes I minimize myself. I make myself little in these rooms because I struggle and I don't know if I belong all the time. So I deal with imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And I'm working on that. Yeah, I don't have that all figured out. Yeah, I'm not perfect, and I'm still growing just like the next person. And so I really want people to know that I'm human too, because people put us on pedestals. I don't want to be on a pedestal. Just because I'm gonna do car commercials on television, I'm still a regular person with regular worries who worries about paying bills and making ends meet. So just keep that in mind. I'm human too. Yes, I'm just like you.
And I appreciate you sharing that with us and sharing that with me, really. You know, because
Yeah.
I mean, I needed to hear that too. It's a little bit about them, but it's a lot of bit about me too. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, what does, my last question for you before I close this out, but what does influence mean to you?
Influence. Influence means that you have a responsibility, whether it's in a community, whether it's in your family. You influence everybody. When you're on social media, you influence how people think with the status you post. When I'm on Facebook Live, I'm influencing folks in how they receive the messages that I'm giving. So to me, it's just a responsibility, and it's how you show up in the world, how you want to be perceived, how you want people to be impacted by your art. And I definitely want people to look at my art and feel joy. I want them to feel seen. And that's the type of influence I want to have. Like when I have passed away, I want people to say, Rita had a positive influence on me.
Right. That's what's up. And I know I said that was my last one, but I promise this is the last one. So, with that said, what do you want your legacy to be?
I would love for my legacy to be just that, a trail of love and kindness. You know, performing is one thing, and being on stage and getting that instant glory, that's fine. But I want my legacy to be, when I saw Rita in the grocery store, we had an intimate conversation. She was kind. You know, sometimes when I'm out and I see somebody cleaning, I just give them some money. You know, I want to have a legacy of positive humanity, love, and kindness, that I treated everybody with respect no matter your status in the world. To me, it's not about followers, it's not about money, it's not about how I can make my life look shinier than yours. It's that I was able to relate to you on a human level, and I did something to help you live and exist in this world one more day. That's important to me.
And that's really legacy, so.
That's legacy for me.
Well,
Ain't nobody gonna be talking about, oh, she had 73,000 followers at the funeral.
nah,
Who's gonna be talking about that?
because ain't none of them gonna be there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
None of them gonna be there.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so I want the people in my life and strangers that I meet to know that I was a loving and caring person. That's it.
Well, Rita, that's all I got.
Thank you.
I'm super appreciative that you took the time, seriously, that you took the time out of your busy schedule to sit down, have a conversation with me. And I think, you know, on behalf of the entire team, I just want to say thank you. But I also want to give you a token of our appreciation.
Is it
right?
free? That's what I'm talking
well,
about.
maybe not for you. I'm joking.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Congratulations on everything y'all are doing. I only hear great things about this show, so I appreciate you having me on. Thank you, Jim.
Well, that's a great thing. Well, and before I let you go, one more question. I'm joking. I don't have no more
Oh,
questions. I just want to see your face right there. I wanted to
right.
see your face right there. You was like, this dude said one more question 3 questions ago.
All right, punchlines. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, I got them. I've been listening to you. But if you could, just tell the people where you would like them to find you, where you would like them to follow you. And I also know that you have a show coming up specifically in Jackson.
Yes.
I'll let you talk to that and just let them know where they can find you, where the show is, when they can pull up.
So you can follow me at Rita Brent Comedy. And also Saturday, September 17th in Jackson, Mississippi, I'm having a huge show. It's called Raised in the Sip, which I was. That's somebody sneezing. raised in the SIP, which I was, and it's going to be at Dueling Hall, 2 shows, 7 p.m. and 9:30. I would love for you to get tickets. I'm going to be doing stand-up comedy. I'm going to be playing music. I have some great opening acts. Violinist John Uzodinma, comedians Merk B. Williams and Nardo Blackman. DJ Mr. Adams is going to be the DJ, and comedian Onika McLean is coming from New York. So I would love for y'all to get tickets Saturday, September 17th at Dueling Hall, 2 shows in Jackson. Grambling is playing that weekend. Grambling and Jackson State, so you can come to the 9:30 after the game. Get those tickets on Ticketmaster.
All right, thank you. Well, Rita, I'll be at the show.
Awesome.
So hopefully
Which one you coming to?
I'm probably gonna hit that late night. You know,
Nice.
I like it when it get late. You know, I want to see that raunchy comedy. You know? So,
the late night is always, the latest show is always rowdy for sure.
Say less. Thanks for confirming it.
Yeah.
Well, seriously, I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate the time. I appreciate everything. But thank you again.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy.
This season is already off to a great start, and I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Rita B here at the Weekend in downtown Jackson, Mississippi. This season, we partnered with some sponsors to help us spread our reach and awareness, so be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Dirty Napkins. Until next time, it's your host, Jay Taylor.